evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Wednesday, August 29, 2007. Welcome to our regularly scheduled board meeting. Everybody please rise. Nikki, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us be here today. We ask that you help lead the right events, people, and circumstances into our lives today so that we can better do your will and work. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Castillo, would you lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we, Mr. Barrera, lead us on the Texas flag, please? The allegiance?
A few words in there different according to the latest
yes, sir. In 2007, the legislature upgraded and they added under one God.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. This time we'll call on anybody that'd like to get up and speak.
Yes.
We have 3 individuals that have signed up.
I got it here a little bit late. I would also like to speak to you for a minute.
There.
You want me to go first?
We have Terry Frady. Go ahead, ma'am.
I've come here today to remind the port that it's your duty to do what's best for the port. And I urge the Commission to lift the moratorium that has been placed on ship dismantles and give Bay Bridge the opportunity to negotiate business with the port.
Thank you, Ms. Frady.
Thank you.
We have next speaker, Mr. Dagoberto Barrera.
Honorable Chairman, Honorable Commissioners, and my fellow Americans. There are so many discrepancies in this operation in the management of this port in the past that was founded by a foresighted person by the name of Hofbuckle many years ago. This port taxes us local citizens and so other 5 taxing entities. These taxpayers are overburdened with malfeasance in office here in this port, as proven by the Phantom Bridge that cost us taxpayers $21 million out of our money that was never built. No one knows where it went and to who. Look at the Phantom Bridge to nowhere, where $21 million was wasted and sent to the Bahama Islands and some other islands, to a bunch of Mexican public officials who probably misappropriated this money and did nothing for our bridge. Yet, our money was lost. Of course, as a last resort, a local taxpayer and interested citizen has filed a lawsuit to try to recover part of these funds that our overburdened taxpayers have lost in this questionable scheme. Now comes a good, solid, and good-paying company that is willing to relocate here and hire our population with above reasonable salaries. And we need this company here, gentlemen. Yet, some in this commission are defensive and non-cooperating by laying obstacles to prevent this company from locating here. Remember, ladies, gentlemen, that this is a capitalistic nation, meaning that we have a free enterprise system that anyone who wants to risk setting up a company can do so and risk making it or going broke. Remember that this jewel of a port belongs to the people of this community and does not belong to any commissioner or any CEO. So, gentlemen, do the right thing by giving the okay to this Bay Bridge company to relocate here and rejuvenate this stagnant port's business and provide good-paying jobs for our community. Unless some of these commissioners have a personal financial interest in the existing dismantling companies now here, and you want to prevent competition from coming in, that's a different problem. Do the right thing, people, and sleep tonight knowing you did a good deed for our community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Barrera.
Yes, sir.
Our next speaker, Francisco Cifuentes.
Good afternoon, President of the Board, Board members, Mr. Campirano, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Francisco Cifuentes. When this company came in, the only thing I asked was that they follow the environmental issues. We had many problems in the past of people leaving a mess behind that cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to take care of those problems. If anybody made a study or is ready to allow this company and they prove that they're a worthy company, let's go ahead. And one of the things that I want to cite is today's article in the paper. We are considered the poorest of the poor in the whole country. I think that most of you, as I can see, read the newspaper. You're very involved in the politics and the economy of this county and this port. And you read it today that we are considered the poorest of the poor in the nation. This city is considered. So take that into account and let's not rush into anything. Let's find out if everything is well and that we can continue doing business with all of the companies coming into the port. We need to open the port. We need to make money instead of charging the trucking companies $3 and $10 and $100 and so many dollars for so many permits. When you allow us to get their overweight permit, you did not know that was not the end of it. We wound up paying $200 for a permit from TxDOT, so we had to register so we can get the permit. So you didn't know it was just the $3 or the $2. We wound up paying $200 for a special permit. So let's take all of those things into account. And I just hope that you make the right decision today. And we're going to continue being involved in this port, and we want to create a better economy, not only for this port, but the whole city of Brownsville and Cameron County. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cifuentes.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Mr. Mauricio Ruiz. Mauro.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mauro Ruiz. I'm here today because I'm so tired of, just having to wait. And I've been waiting for over 3 years. I've tried to be very prudent and stay away from these meetings because I am one of the persons that does not like to offend anyone. I do not want you to take the following personal, but I want to give you an example of a paradigm that I would follow if I was the CEO of this company. This is a company. This is business. We are the shareholders. For these 2 minutes that I have remaining, or 3, am the CEO. The first thing I would do is to clean house. We need to do that. With all due respect, we have an honorable family that has been here as consul for 75 years. I think it's time that the company turns in their resignation. We have followed models of other bureaucrats or public servants in other areas that when they are found that there's something wrong, they are asked to be suspended with or without pay. This I will address the commissioners that have been here, the one that signed the check with one signature. I asked for his resignation. I asked for the resignation of the commissioner that is in question by the U.S. authorities concerning his work tactics. I asked for the investigation of the commissioners that went to Houston to settle the business with Daniel County. A private investigating firm from New York or somewhere, because apparently the local authorities at federal and state level jurisdiction have not taken interest in this situation. We need to clean house. for those persons that have to be removed, then whoever remains, we need to set up a new election and get the people that will do the right for the benefit of the citizens of Brownsville. We don't have to put up with it. It's been 3 years, and I'm tired of it. And you know, we have trusted new candidates have come in. I have spoken with them before they came, and they informed me that they would settle this matter, and on the contrary, they have made the problem bigger. I, as a contractor, if you put $1 million in my pocket, I'll take them. Dynamite Company has no business, because if they put the money there and they took it. Who put it there is the one that's responsible. But that was our money. And I will correct, it's not $21 million. It's $63 million. Because by the time we pay that money back, that's what it's going to be. So, you know, we're not talking $21 million anymore. This is serious business. And I, as a CEO, ask for those persons be removed and let me start anew without any micromanagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ruiz. On to our next item, item number 3, receive the Board Directors' report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, at this time what I'd like to do is actually call on a couple of our directors to make reports. First one I'd like to call on is George Gavito and report on the situation we had with the Mexican fishing vessels that were here calling on the port for safe harbor. You may have seen that on the news, and just ask George to give us a brief report on that.
Chairman, Commissioners, Director. Last Monday on the 20th, we got a call from the Mexican, some of the Mexican companies that have shrimp boats that, because of Hurricane Dean, they were asking for safe harbor in our port. Safe harbor is any vessel that feels that there's a problem, they can ask for safe harbor. It's a worldwide where any ship can come into any port. We had the shrimping season for Mexico begins August 14th to October 1st. At any given time, right off the Mexican coast, from Boca Chica south, we have 250, 300 Mexican shrimp boats. They asked for safe harbor. They came into our port. We had about 130 shrimp boats that came in with about 750 fishermen on board. U.S. Customs, Border Patrol, and the Coast Guard assisted us in the security of these boats. The Mexican consulate assisted us on some of the fishermen were sick, and we provided medical attention. Dr. Redondo from Brownsville provided free services for them, and one was very sick, and he was taken to the hospital. The Mexican shrimp boats that are here come in with the captain of the port in Corpus Christi is the one that assists us in this with the Coast Guard. They were here for about 48 hours, and they returned back fishing, and everything worked out real good.
I'd like to kind of follow up on a couple of Mr. Gavito's comments. One is that if you really think about Hurricane Dean and the fact that it did not make landfall anywhere or cause any damage to the Texas coast, one area where it did affect Texas was obviously in our port. I will also tell you, and I'd like to publicly say this to the agencies that assisted, Customs, Coast Guard, Border Patrol, of course the Mexican consulate, the GLO, their assistance really created a situation where it was handled very, very well. It went very well. By all accounts, everyone was really pleased with the way the situation went. We had really no incidents, and it was a great, I think, run that really demonstrated some of the issues that sometimes we forget about when you have a situation like this. And I think the reports we've had, George and I went, and Ray Ramirez went to a situation today, a little briefing they call a hot wash with Customs, and by all accounts, everybody was very pleased. I'd also like to say that, from a port perspective and from the staff that participated, and really the two key decision makers in this process that made it work for us is, of course, Mr. Gavito and our harbor master, Mr. Ramirez. But it all worked very well. I think that it turned out being a great exercise, and it certainly put us in a much better position to be prepared for the real thing when it does occur. So that was a situation that worked out real well. Thank God.
I think we should also recognize Dr. Arredondo for donating services to all those fishermen as well.
Thank you, Mr. Gavito.
Next report I'd like to ask is Mr. Hector Lopez to kind of give us a brief update on the dredging operation that's currently going on in the ship channel.
Chairman, Commissioners, good afternoon. Well, as you are aware, our contractor with the Corps, Mr. T.M. Locoy, continues to dredge our channel. Their scope of work is basically broken down into 6 sections. They've done sections 1 to 3, which basically, if you look at that map, entails from where the bend in the channel is, just past the Y, right by the entrance to Bahia Ancha. That has been completed. A little bit over 500,000 cubic yards of materials were dredged in area number 4. During the next couple of days, the contractor will be mobilizing to the next 3 reaches, which are just by where the pilot channel is, and continuing all the way past to the boat ramp, and right before you get to the fishing harbor, that's sections 4 and 5. All that material will be placed in the focal area number 5B, which is just on the south side. Once that's completed, then the next sections to be done include the turning basin and our docks. All dock 3, all dock 5, cargo docks 11, 12, 13, and cargo dock 15. Contract is on schedule. It's anticipated that all the completion and the contract will be completed by the first week of November.
Thank you.
Questions?
What is it being dredged to?
Essentially the maintenance to the existing dredge, 42 feet, all the way up to a little bit past cargo dock 15, and then the balance of it is to the 36-foot depth.
It's 42 plus 2 with a 1 foot of prescribed over depth, except for the turning basin that is 36 plus 2.
Good.
What area of the channel width is that? Total width? How much is that of that?
The navigable channel, it's the entire navigable channel.
Most of the sections in the entrance is about 435, and it narrows down to 250. Most of the channel is 250, except once you get to the turning basin, which ranges anywhere from 1,200 feet at the turning basin to about 500-600, what is called the transition zone.
That concludes the report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All those? Okay, we've got consent agenda items next. All consent agenda items listed are considered to be routine by the B&D Commission and will be approved in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless at least one B&D Commissioner so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately in the regular agenda. Item number 4, consideration and action on the following consent agenda items. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of August 8th, 2007. B, approval to authorize payments over $25,000. Ms. Deborah Duke.
The 3 vendors that you have listed are Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas. It's a monthly premium for employee independent health insurance due for September. Total payment of $45,953.89. Siemens Financial Services, it's a monthly lease rental on the payment for the mobile harbor crane and the amount of $28,564.75, and payment to Brownsville and Rio Grande International Railroad for repairs to sidings S16 and 17 in the amount of $99,922.50.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
being a naive person and everything in water and port and so forth, like, to me, it's a lot of money for Blue Shield, $46,000 for insurance a month. Oh my God, is that true? Am I wrong, or is that right?
Yes, sir.
How many people are involved? The whole?
All employees.
All the employees at the port.
Approximately 80 employees.
80?
And also, again, health and premiums are,
They have
everybody is dealing with it.
whether they die or not, or come back alive, or everything.
Yeah, if you die, you don't need the coverage.
I'm just kind of,
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? A lot of
It's a problem for everyone, and we do provide health benefits to our employees.
And then Brandon International Railroad, $99,000 a month.
Okay, we must continue with our next item, Mr. Barrera.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
I'll just make the motion to approve the item number 4, it's all the items within it, unless somebody has an objection to any one particular item. Second.
Okay.
I believe there's some items that Lucy is going to ask to be tabled.
Okay.
Because it's not ready.
Ms. Rosenbaum, you have any?
Under G, 1, 2, and number 6 need to be tabled.
1, 2, and 6?
1, 2, and 6.
Okay. The exception of those items, I'll move to second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, presentations, number 5, audience with Jose Herrera, Chairman of the Great Brownsville Incentives Corporation regarding interagency cooperation.
Chairman Arambula, Commissioners, thank you very much for your time and allowing me to come and speak with you all on behalf of the BEDC and Greater Brownsville Incentive Corporation. My name is Jose Herrera. I'm presently the chairman of the Greater Brownsville Incentive Corporation. I put in front of you a copy of what a presentation. I asked for the fact that it says PUB. Hey, I'm doing the same presentation to all the boards, okay? But anyway, I'm Jose Herrera, the chairman of the GBIC at the present time. GBIC consists of 5 members, myself, Mr. Ruben Gallegos, Norma Harrison, Mr. Wadwani, and Mr. Bill Connors. We are appointed by the City Commission, and we serve a term of 4 years. A little history on we oversee the 1/4% tax, the money that's collected, the 1/4% tax that is collected from the citizens of Brownsville. We are the 4A part of it and not the 4B. At 1992, when this was first initiated, it was 4A, 4B. In 2002, if I'm not mistaken, the citizens voted to split into 4A and 4B. At that time, we had approximately $4.5 million or $4.5 million in revenues. 2003 was split, and it went down to approximately $2.9 million. But since from 2003 to the present time, our tax that we collect are almost the same as what we had when we split in 2002. That tells us a lot that obviously that the tax base has increased in Brownsville, and that there is something good that has happened in the last 4 or 5 years. The GBIC contracts with the BEDC, the Brownsville Economic Development Council, to do the work that we do here in town. Since 1992 to the present 2007, on page 3, it gives you an idea of how the money has been spent. Approximately 3.6% has gone to the expenses, audit, legal, miscellaneous that GBIC has incurred. Approximately 16% has gone to the operation of the BEDC. 58% of the total revenue has actually been expended to projects that have been authorized, and there's approximately a 21% fund balance in our budget, fund balance. Out of the 58% of the project expenditures, since 1992 to 2007, approximately 55.9% of that money has gone to companies or projects that we have incentivized. 20% has gone to UTB, TSC, to projects like the iTech and the Science Technology buildings at the university. Quality of Life have approximately 12.2%, and the city of Brownsville has received approximately 11.7% in some of the projects that we have participated in. We have changed things up a little bit at the GBIC. Prior to a couple of years ago, we had a pot of money, and we really had no agenda for it, except we would entertain companies that were looking to be incentivized. We have changed that a little bit. We started in 2006, and then for the fiscal year 2007, we adopted the following budget. And for the GBIC expenditure, it's going to be approximately 2%. For legal counsel, we're going to expend about 2%. The operating budget of BDC should take up about 18% of the total revenue, and our consulting and marketing uses about 9%. That's approximately 31% of the total budget. The remaining 69% goes, we split it up into four different areas. To incentivize companies or projects, we have set aside approximately 32% of the budget. For targeted infrastructures, we have set aside 14%. Targeted infrastructures could be either utility hookups, preparations of sites, anything that we could help assist so that the companies that want to come into town would be greater attracted to the area. At the same time, we believe that if we put our money into the ground or with infrastructure, then nobody can ever walk away with it. It'll always be here for the next client if things don't go right with that client. We have set aside 14% for a large project reserve. And the reason we did that is, in the past, we have had companies that come to us and require larger amounts than the normal money that we used to incentivize companies. So we took action and said that we were going to start saving approximately 14% a year, set it aside for these special projects that would require large investments by the citizens of Brownsville through the GBIC, and so that we could maybe change our aerodynamics of our area by bringing in a large company. 9% also goes to community-based projects, which is projects like VITA and a project like a Hinternet that we believe that we have to also participate in to make sure that we help train and be ready with the labor force that these companies might be requiring. They are working close with the university and with BDC, like VITA per se, to make sure that the people that they're training or recruiting into the programs are the type of persons that we require for the different companies that are coming into town. It used to be that they used to train mostly medical. Well, they're full of medical, apart from the fact that the university really has no space for any additional medical students. So they have diverged a little bit and now are starting to train people in the information technology area. Anyway, the projects are the four different categories: company incentive, targeted infrastructure, large project reserve, and the community base. Under the project expenditures, we also set some stipulations. We will entertain any company that comes into town, and we definitely will show them around and make sure that we do everything possible so they can choose Brownsville as their site to set up. But unless they are willing to pay a minimum of $9 an hour plus benefits, and hopefully in 2008 we're going to increase that to $10 an hour, then we will not entertain we will not incentivize these companies. Our minimum starting pay is $9 an hour. Anything below that, then they're welcome to come to town, and we'll do anything to help them out, but they will not receive any taxes or tax money from the citizens of Brownsville. Also, before they used to come in and they used to they used to come in and ask for the money, and we used to basically give it to them up front. And if something happened 1 or 2 years down the road, then we were basically out of our money. We have changed that. We are not doing it on a performance-based way, whereas they won't receive any money until after the first year, and they perform to at least what they said they were going to do during the first year. That way, we make sure that our money stays in our account instead of giving it out and then having to chase somebody for the money. I'd rather be defending the money that we haven't given out than having to chase money that we've given out maybe and not getting anything returned. Also, the payments are approximately the incentive per job that is created by a company is approximately $2,500 per person that they hire. And when we pay them, incentivize them, we break it over a 3 to 5 year period so that it gives us time to make sure that they're going to perform like they say they are going to perform. Other determining factors also depends on how much of an investment a company is willing to do, whether they're within the city limits of Brownsville, and whether they're using our PUB as their supplier of electricity and power. Under the project expenditures area, also the second category, the targeted infrastructure, we have set that one aside so that we can aid and assist in companies in building roads, connecting PUB connections, or that kind of gas, railroad spurs, anything that has to do with infrastructure so that it can make it more attractive for the companies to relocate. At the same time, there's no one company that can come in and use up all the funds. They're only allowed a certain portion, and also another stipulation is that they have matching dollars to go along with that. And obviously we have to follow our regulations that the legislation has set up. Under the large project, like I said, is to develop a reserve that in the future if we need to help either PUB, the city, the port, or anybody to bring in a large company, hopefully we'll be able to participate in these kind of ventures. The community base is obviously to help our community, to agencies like the VITA project, who is in our minds, and we all agree that they're crucial in the sense that we did and continue to have a high dropout rate through our high schools, and these people sooner or later are going to require some training. There's obviously County Works, VITA, and a couple other agencies in town that are doing this. But I think that as citizens, we also have to participate and put a little bit into this kind of projects so that we can have a adequate workforce labor, so when companies come into town, it's even more attractive to them. No one entity of these community base can also take more than 50% of the budget. Allows for us to diversify and maybe help several different agencies instead of all one. Targeted industries that we are focusing on at GBIC and BDC, obviously the maquiladora and manufacturing. Many times people ask us why we promote maquilas when the majority of them go into Mexico, and a lot of them only have either the receiving or shipping from here, their primary material or their finished products. But if you have been involved in a lot of this, I realize that if more people can be employed in Matamoros, that benefits Brownsville, because on Saturday, even the people that don't have vehicles, you'll see them lined up on the bridge and coming over to Brownsville to spend their money over here. So in the long run, it definitely behooves us that Matamoros also does well. Obviously, the aerospace and aviation is an industry we're targeting. High-end business services, the information, technology and security, telecommunications, logistics and transportation, and local business and retention and expansion is also. Retail also is an industry that we focus on, but we believe also that it's kind of a spin-off. If there's jobs and there's work in our community, then retail will definitely come or follow right behind it. The activity that we've had in 2006, GBIC approved 5 new companies, a total of 1,097 direct jobs, not counting indirect. The average wage paid by these companies was approximately $11, and they had a local investment, or actually new local payroll of over $25 million to our community in 2006. 2007, GBIC has approved two quality of life projects, the VITA and the Hinternet, and so far there's the organic fuel which you all know about, and they're committed to 48 jobs, $18 an hour, $40 million investment. T-Mobile's the most recent one, 700 jobs at a minimum of $10.40 an hour plus a 35% benefit package, and they have a $17 million investment. And obviously there's another one that's working, it's a Teleperformance, which supposedly should create 1,000 new jobs for our community. That should go in the old Albertson building. There's a couple of projects that are pending. We're working on a metal stamper. We try to diversify also. we know that eventually then, if when we get too many of the same industries, then instead of helping, it actually hurts. It doesn't do any good for us to continue to attract companies of the same industry when eventually they're going to start stealing or attracting the employees that other ones have already hired and moving them over. And any time there's turnover in any company, obviously it costs money. The objective here is to bring in companies that don't compete so much with each other, and so that in the long run we're basically protecting the investment we have with the previous companies by not incentivizing companies in the same area. So we will entertain any of them, and we will definitely help them relocate, but I think we need to be wise on how we invest the money. Anyway, one of the projects we're working is a metal stamper that wants to do over a $20 million plus investment with 60 jobs and $15 an hour. A Mexican spice company who wants to invest about $6 million in our area and approximately 50 jobs at $13 an hour. And we're working on a large retail development of over 1 million square feet, which should bring in about $100 million investment and over 500 jobs into our community. We have a couple of areas that we support and concern. Obviously, we need to increase our high school graduation rate and decrease the dropouts. And obviously, I say this is not that we're involved in necessarily doing anything, but it's something that should be concerned as community member to all of us. The more high school graduates we have, the more attractive our region looks to other companies. Obviously, we need to improve our training options. We need to continue to decrease our unemployment, which I think is around a single digit, 5.3 so far, and also improve our wages. There's new infrastructures that needs to be done. We believe there's new bridges that need to be built. We need to acquire interstate status. We believe that Brownsville should be an owner of their own generation facility, and especially set up here at the port. We believe that we should be looking into a coal-fired generation facility for our city. Obviously expand our desal plant and the Weir Dam. As far as the port is concerned, we believe that we need to continue to improve our infrastructure out there, put PUB infrastructure out there so we can attract different companies and a variety of different companies. We believe that we need to deepen our port. I was happy to hear that there's something that's ongoing. At 45 feet is most excellent. We have entertained several companies that the requirement has been to in the 55 range as far as the port. The port, even though it's attractive because of the land and strategically located not only the United States but also Mexico, a lot of these large ships that these companies would want to bring would have to come in half full. When they come in half full or half empty, whichever you want. They call it half empty, I call it half full. But the reason is not beneficial to them is that they're paying the same amount of fuel and everything, but yet they can't bring ships in with full capacity. By doing so and deepening our port, it would open our region up for a greater dynamic of industries that would be looking into our area. But anyway, and also on a personal note, I not only believe that we should deepen our port even further, but I also believe that we should widen our port. I think when it was originally set up, our forefathers had a great vision, and they obviously implemented it, and we are where we are because of that. But if we're going to have change the dynamics, then we also need to be visionaries, and apart from being visionaries, we need to act on our vision. Our time is running out, but I believe that one of the things that we can do to greatly change it, and I know it's a multi-million-dollar, time-consuming project, but it's widening of our port also. Our high-tech campus, obviously, we need to change that into a high-tech area, and also we need to continue to work with Matamoros. They are our sister city. If they do well, we will do well. In 2001, when I first became chairman of the BDC, the economic growth in Brownsville was basically a standstill. A big problem was that Matamoros was not doing anything to develop industrial parks, so that when companies came by here, they really had nowhere to establish themselves. The GBEC also has taken a role in acquiring some land, and they're in the process of drawing up some preliminary plans for an industrial park. Being involved directly with that, we know that the things that these companies require and are looking for when they first come into our region, and I know for a fact that companies like Black & Decker, Nokia, and even the expansions of Eaton Corporation first looked in our region, but then they relocated right up the road to Reynosa and McAllen. So by changing and taking these steps, I think we can greatly change the dynamics of our region and improve the work environment for our citizens of Brownsville. With that, I complete my report, and I definitely entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera. Any questions?
I just want to thank you personally on behalf of us. I just want to thank you for all the work that you're doing there for us. And just to let you know and let the public know, as far as the port deepening and widening, it's an ongoing project, and we've done some steps that are positive, and we're moving forward with it, but we're kind of at the mercy of the Corps of Engineers, and we're moving forward, and moving forward means that hopefully we'll have good news in a few years.
One of the things, Commissioners, if you allow me, is that I understand that we can't do everything with our money, our own money.
No.
We need to figure out a way to do it, and we do need help from the federal government. But one of the things that we have come across is a lot of these companies that require the area because it's strategically located, well for their own benefit, are willing to invest money in exactly doing that. I think this is one of the reasons why I have taken the initiative to go around to the different boards and talk to them. Same thing with PUB. I go out there and tell them that we should be working on our own power plant, and they say, well, we can't afford it. But the same thing with that, there are companies out there that are interested in investing and building and partnering up with Brownsville to do exactly that, build a power plant. And the same thing with the port and the deepening.
If I may, I don't know if Hector Lopez is still around. He left already? If I'm not mistaken, just so you know, it's not about, even though it's going to take millions of dollars to widen and deepen it, it's not just about money. We can't even pay for it with our own money. It has to be federal money that pays for it because it's considered. So even if we had the money sitting in the bank, we couldn't go and get our own dredge and dredge it and make it wide. Just for your information.
No, and I understand. I know that, Commissioner. I was in Washington about a month ago, and I spoke with the Congressman Salomón Ortiz and a couple of other congressmen, and they mentioned that he also mentioned that a lot of it was, they put the blame on the Corps of Engineers, that basically that there was no money. He said there is no money, to do that. But I posed the question to him also, the same thing. Okay, you have no money. The Corps Engineer is working on the project, and they're taking their time because they know that they won't have money for another few years. So there's no reason why to hurry any of the studies that they're doing. But when I asked them if there would be a way to take in private investment or private money from companies that have an interest in setting up at the port and do that, he said that there is a way. So I maybe have dropped the ball in the sense of maybe not communicating that with you, but now that you mentioned that, it reminded me of that, and the same thing with our power plant. So I understand that it has to be done to the United States, but the congressman assured me that with money in hand, if somebody else, that everything will move a little quicker.
Private investment, yes.
Anything else? Peter.
Thank you, Jose.
Mr. Herrera, I just had a couple of comments. I'm not sure if on page 7 of fiscal year 06, the new companies that you mentioned there, GBEC approved 5 new companies, and then the last one, there were over $25 million in new local payroll. Are the new companies that you have here, are they incorporated with the new companies that are coming at the Port of Brownsville, and then the payroll that you have is that also the payroll that comes in with new monies that are coming in and generated through the port?
No, the 2006 companies, I only have 3 of them that I could remember of, but it was New Tech, Orion, and Portage.
Mm-hmm.
And none of those are
nothing from the port then.
The port, no.
So these figures, they're actually misleading, but if you would incorporate this with the port, obviously the numbers would be greater than that, right?
Definitely. I think that we incentivize STAR, dismantle. One of them that's here at the port, I remember, is a STAR All-Star, I think that, but I think that didn't come to fruit until this year, 2007, if I'm not mistaken. But there are a few companies, Amphils also was one of the ones, but I think that project was in 2005, they were going to expand their operation, but I think that was 2005. So some of the figures that we're giving you here are actually for companies that actually set up in Brownsville, and you're right, it's not counting a lot of the jobs that we're hiring.
Maybe what we could do, and partnering up with you in the future, is you communicate with our port director down the road, and he would be more than glad to work with you and give you the figures that we have, so you can incorporate them in there, and then we have a real good idea of what it looks like.
Key. All the boards need to work together. I mean, we need the port at the GBIC enable for you guys or the commission to do certain things so that we can continue to bring companies and attract them. We entertain one today that is very interested in the port also, and it makes a lot of sense for them business-wise, and if it makes sense business-wise, they're going to come.
Well, we thank you and hope you can come back and visit us next year.
Comments, if I may. Just rest assured that we were at the table today with this company that he's talking about. And secondly is that, while I agree with Mr. Herrera that we should look for partnering opportunities, we also need to be cognizant that we're not here to give away the farm either. I mean, if it makes sense, if it works for us, and that we can partnership, believe me, I'd love nothing better than develop this port with somebody else's money. So, but we do work, and we do have an open line of communication from staff to staff, but it is important too. I think there are times when they don't want to see the staffers, they want to see the elected officials, they want to know that interest is there, and we will bring those opportunities to this commission, as well as look at every opportunity that we are certain that we're not missing out on an opportunity to be part of a partnering opportunity that's going to create jobs in our community.
I completely agree with Mr. Campirano as far as we're not going to give away the farm. That's precisely why we have changed our policies and the way we allocate our money. I say our because I speak as a citizen also. I get taxed also. But that's why we have changed that, and that's why we no longer give people money up front. So we have to learn from the mistakes. We can't dread and sit there and cry over it, but we have to learn from them and go forward. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, just a talking point, we got to participate. Remember that when we asked, as a conservative Republican, remember when we asked for government money from Washington, it's our money too, that goes up there and then it's just spread all over the United States. So it's not, in Washington, they're not just making dollar bills. I see it on TV, but it's not the real thing.
Thank you, Mr. Barrera.
Yes, sir.
We're on to our next items, action items. Item number 6, consideration and action to cancel regular board meeting on September the 5th of 2007. Mr. Campirano?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, our regularly scheduled meeting for the 5th, we're asking that it be canceled. One is that comes on the on the heels of that meeting is our annual trade fair in Monterrey, as well as we have no business to present to the board on that day. So our regularly scheduled meeting of the 19th would suffice. So with that, I would request that we cancel this meeting.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, consideration and action on negotiating a lease with Bay Bridge Enterprises, LLC. Mr. Campirano?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Bay Bridge Enterprises has made a lease application to the Brownsville Navigation District to undertake a ship dismantling and metal transporting operation at the Port of Brownsville. Staff was instructed to review the information on prospective tenant and to visit the Bay Bridge facilities in Chesapeake, Virginia. The staff did do the visit. It was myself, it was Donna Emar, Deputy Director, and we had also Mr. Rich Tobner, who is our consultant on the master planning attend. I prepared a package of information for you. You had asked me to come back at this meeting and make a recommendation on how we should proceed with Bay Bridge. And I'll just get right to it. My recommendation is that we proceed to negotiate a lease with Bay Bridge Enterprises. I think the other issue that I enumerated in my recommendation to you is the issue of the moratorium. It is still my feeling, as I stated before, that we should not lift the moratorium. That proceeding with Bay Bridge, we ought to do it as an exception to the moratorium. If that is not a way we can proceed, then I do think we need to take a look at making changes to that moratorium, and I'll tell you why. One is that when we went to see the Bay Bridge operations, I mean, they are a legitimate company, in my opinion. They obviously are in the business. They're a merit-approved contractor. Not only are they in the dismantling business, they're also in the scrap metal and the buying and selling of steel. This is a company that is not new to this business and is not new to this enterprise. So they're not somebody who decided, hey, let's go out and buy a ship. Looks like it's a commodity that we can make money in. Let's just go get started somewhere. And because of what we are establishing here at the port is really kind of, if you really think about it, we are the center in the domestic United States that will be essentially the number one dismantler of vessels. And I think the reason Bay Bridge wants to come here, and the reason I think that in the future if we're going to make our current operators successful, is that looking at that Suisun Bay fleet in San Francisco. And there is no closer place in domestic United States to do that dismantling than Brownsville, Texas. So I do believe we should go forward. Again, I would reiterate that I would hope that we can do so. And as far as the moratorium, at least for the present, we do it with Bay Bridge as an exception too, and go ahead and proceed with negotiating with them. And with that, I also want to say that Mr. Mark McPherson from Bay Bridge Enterprises, the president and CEO, is here. Our meetings in Chesapeake went very well. They accommodated us in every way. I have provided you the information that they provided to the questions that were asked. At this point, I really personally do not see, and I would recommend that we go ahead and proceed and negotiate a lease with Bay Bridge, and hopefully we'll be successful in doing so. I think we've learned a lot from this process, not only in how to vetting them, but also the fact that we did our due diligence, and I do believe it would be a good move on behalf of the port to proceed.
Mr. Campidano, Mr. Chairman, if I may ask him some questions. As I understand it, there is no official document entitled moratorium. Is that correct?
What I have been able to see is that minutes from a meeting that occurred in 2002, that out of a request for a particular lease that I think that Mrs. Rosenbaum brought to the Commission, out of that discussion came just a declaration and inclusion into the minutes that a moratorium on further shipbreaking operations at the port was declared. So, again,
it was voted on and approved.
That's correct, and it is recorded as an official action by the Commission, but there isn't anything that is, whether it's a resolution, proclamation, or any instrument that enumerates that.
Well, I would suggest that we do this. Obviously, I do want to proceed forward with approving their lease, but why don't we put in our policy and procedure manual as a leasing policy and address the concerns that I think that you have that are legitimate, address those concerns in the policy and procedure manual instead of some unwritten moratorium. I think that would be a lot more efficient and frankly a lot more binding. I'm concerned that, number one, I'm concerned of potential legal liability in the future, that if we're lifting an unwritten moratorium for one lessee, that another lessee comes down the road and says, well, why didn't it get lifted for me? And that could expose the district, number one. Number two, if you are correct in your prediction that we will become the number one shipbreaking port in the country, then why not send a message to those companies out there, come on down. We are lifting the moratorium. We do have some concerns that are appropriate, and they're addressed in our leasing policy, and you can see them and you can decide whether you can meet those concerns or not. I think that would make for a lot more efficient and objective and streamlined process in terms of reviewing these applications. And that's the way I would prefer that we proceed. Actually, in the end, we're not just changing the word moratorium, we're deleting the word moratorium, and we're putting those concerns of yours in an official document that the board can pass in a policy and procedure manual.
Well, one, I would, and I don't disagree, and one of the reasons that part of the discussion, how we proceed, but I would continue to say this, and that is, I believe the port has the right or reserves the right to negotiate with anyone it wishes, sure, and to tell whoever it wishes, we either want you or don't want you, regardless of whether it's a shipbreaker, tamale stand or whatever. I mean, that's just, I believe that should always be within our purview and within our prerogative. I think that if you're talking about a process for this particular industry of creating a way that we can go and do some due diligence, or at least use it as a filter to say, don't just show up at our doorstep expecting a lease if you've never been in this business. But I think, ultimately, we should reserve the right, whether it's for this type of industry or any concern, that if we don't think it's in the best interest of the port or whatever, that we should tell them no.
Well, and that may happen, and that could happen more objectively, and B could get better guidance in talking to a prospective lessee if she can then point to that in a policy and procedure that the board has passed. And that way, we don't have a situation where perhaps the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, as has been alleged. So I will make this motion, Mr. Chairman. I will move that we lift the moratorium, translate the concerns that Mr. Campiano has into a policy and procedure that will then be passed by the board, and that we proceed with negotiating a lease with Bay Bridge Enterprises such that the lease can be presented for board approval not later than 60 days from today, which would be the end of October.
Okay, we have a motion on the table.
I've got some discussion before we consider, I guess, before we vote. I'd like to discuss this a little bit more. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Campirano for the materials, the research, and regarding Bay Bridge. I think it was a good presentation. It shed light on a lot of things, so thank you for that. It's important that we investigate businesses that are potential environmental hazards here at the Port of Brownsville and our community. We have a duty to protect our natural resources and our environment, and as we all know, shipbreaking is a dirty business. I'm sure that the shipbreakers, when they see a lot of the scrap metal and all that, they see money. We see it and we just see, pile of junk or something like that. But that's just the way we see things sometimes. Some of the reasons why I wanted to take a deeper look into Bay Bridge coming into the port is the fact that just the ships alone pose a hazard to the community or to the ports, wherever they're sitting at. Just from the fact that and this is from some of the articles on the materials that Mr. Campirano provided, the ships that are sitting in Susan Bay right now, there was an estimated 21 tons of paint containing toxic metals and chemicals that were just falling off the ships and falling into the bay. That paint contains different types of poisonous chemicals such as barium, cadmium, chromium, copper, lead, mercury, zinc. These are materials that are carcinogens. They're definitely hazardous to people, So it's important that we take that into consideration. Some of the materials that are coming off of the ships, asbestos, PCBs, there's fuel oil, there's oily water, and this is coming off the ships by the tons. So when you're looking at a shipbreaker, you want to make sure that it's a shipbreaker that's doing it environmentally correct, that it's not going to affect your environment. Now, we visited some of the shipbreaking operations here in Brownsville. I want to say that I was impressed with their operations. It appears that they're complying with all the environmental regulations. They, consider safety very important to the employees. So a lot of them are investing millions in their operations here at the port. I do want to say that I didn't really like the approach that the company took when trying to start an operation here at the Port of Brownsville. I think they perhaps were misinformed about how we would receive them here at the port. I think all they had to do is come and knock on the front door, and they would have somebody that would listen to them and take them into consideration. After all, they're a business that is willing to, come and locate here at the port. And even though I did not like the manner in which Bay Bridge approached this, the port, I'm still here to do what is right, regardless of how they approach this, which I didn't like, but I'm still going to do here what is right. From the information that was presented to me, it appears that Bay Bridge is a reputable company. It appears that they are complying with all of the requirements as a shipbreaker. As Mr. Campirano stated earlier, he found that they were compliant with the regulations over there. They're, a regular shipbreaking company that's complying with all the requirements. They're approved by Murad. I do believe that it will have some effect on some of the other shipbreaking operations, as far as they might be able to lose some of their employees. But at the same time, I believe they would be able to absorb some of these losses. And partly, my belief is based on a layoff of about 40 employees from one of the shipbreakers. So if we have those kind of numbers being laid off, then somebody else should be able to absorb those numbers. I believe we should approve the negotiations for a lease with Bay Bridge. However, at this time, I believe that the moratorium should remain in place, that Bay Bridge be exempted from the moratorium, that any other shipbreaking businesses wishing to locate at the port of Brownsville should go through the same type of review or investigation before they are allowed to come to the port of Brownsville.
Thank you, Commissioner Musso. Anybody else?
If there's no second to Peter's motion, I'll make a second to Mr. Musso's motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Zavaleta to lift the moratorium.
Yes, sir.
And approve
to lift the moratorium and to translate the concerns that Mr. Campirano expressed to a policy and procedure manual where they can be applied equally and fairly and not arbitrarily, which a moratorium would allow them to be applied. Because there is no moratorium, there is no written document, there is no criteria established. If we want to be objective and even-handed, I think we should have criteria. Right now, there is no criteria. In fact, the last time it was discussed, people couldn't even give us reasons why there was a moratorium. So I think there are some concerns that can be translated over to the policy and procedure manual, and so that was my motion.
Mr. Chairman, under item number 7 doesn't mention anything about the moratorium, just to negotiate lease with Bay Bridge. So
that couldn't even be possible. But okay, we have a motion.
We will work on a policy to bring back to the Commission. I think that's clear. So we will do so. And I don't expect to have 10 shipbreakers at our door tomorrow, because I'm still going to approach them in the same manner as any business. We're going to do our due diligence on them before we would even recommend to you that this is a company we want to do business with.
Right. Go ahead.
And Mr. Campirano, it should be any business
That's correct.
I agree. In any type of hazardous materials that they could be an environmental disaster or anything like that. We want to be able to ensure that it's a company that's reputable, and we want to prevent any type of environmental disaster. So I think any company or business dealing with hazardous materials, the policy should address those businesses.
I would submit, in response to Mr. Musso, I would submit that the reason that there was a difficulty this time is because there was a moratorium. And in fact, as I understand it, Bay Bridge came through the front door. They spoke with the Leasing and Industrial Development Director, who in turn then spoke with the Acting Port Director, who in turn then presented the idea to the Board of Commissioners. If that's not the front door, then somebody needs to educate me, because that's the way I thought leases are granted here at the port. Somebody else may be the wizard behind the magic screen, but
well, I guess
just a second, I'm not finished yet. But that's the way they came to the port. I think this is a great, even if this moratorium is not lifted, I think this is a great day for Brownsville. And although I would have liked this to have happened 3 months ago, just today, as someone alluded to earlier, just today, we woke up to the news that we are ranked and considered the poorest city in the country. And there was a quote in there from Tracy Wickett, who's doing an outstanding job as United Way president. And it's something that I had never frankly taken into account. She said, quote, "When we talk about poverty in our community, we're not talking about people who are unemployed. We have a lot of hardworking people in our community who live below the poverty line." And the reason that I have been in support of this company from the very beginning is because of their record and their promise, which I expect them to live up to, of paying high wages.
And providing benefits. And think about the destinies that we're changing today. This is something that everybody can be proud of. Think about the families whose futures we're positively affecting. We hear a lot of talk about how much tax burden we have, and that's true. Here we have an opportunity to put money back into their pockets through higher wages and better benefits, and without any incentives. By the way, we just had a presentation from the president of the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation, which means freebies, and they're doing a good job. But this company has never asked for a dime of freebies. All they've asked is for an opportunity to come in and set up shop and see what the market will bear. So I think that's all great news, and everybody should be proud of this lease. I do want to make a friendly amendment to your motion, Commissioner. Since mine died with the lack of a second, can we add a time frame of presentation to the board of a completed lease within 60 days? Otherwise, it's just open-ended and it's mañana maybe. This way both sides are committed to a time frame.
How much time do you need, Eddie?
It depends on what we need to hammer out. I mean, I can tell you that I certainly not staff's intent in any way to seek negotiations with Bay Bridge in a manner that it's just totally unrealistic. I mean, I'm telling you, this isn't just a show. I mean, we're going to sit down. I believe Mr. McPherson has been very good, and certainly he and I have engaged in numerous conversations. I do appreciate him being here, and I think we're both committed to put our best foot forward. But we both want things out of this negotiation, and we'll work it through. If we can get it done in 60 days, or if not, I can tell you this, I think we'll report to you in 60 days where we are. But if it isn't going to work, it ain't going to be 60 days of talking and getting nowhere. So I'll tell you that. I think we both agree.
I don't think it's necessary, Commissioner. I think
let it flow whichever way it falls, and he
pretty
will
much recommending that.
Why don't you just give us an update at our next meeting how things are going?
That's fine. I'll bring the check.
That's even better.
All right, that's even good.
That's even better.
Okay, just to touch up on something that that Maso brought up, and just from my point of view, one thing that I think got a lot of commissioners off guard was the fact that everybody had the impression that we were saying no to Bay Bridge from the beginning. And I would like to ask you if any commissioner ever told you no.
No, sir.
Okay, and I think that was an impression that a lot of people and a lot of taxpayers had, was that we were saying no to them. And would you, and my belief is, I think I know what the answer is for me, but would you agree that if another shipbreaker wants to come, we should do our due diligence the way we're doing with you?
Say that again?
If another shipbreaker wanted to come, do you think that we are doing our due diligence in making sure that a good corporate shipbreaker is coming? Would you agree with that?
I agree with it fully. I mean,
Okay.
you guys went through us, and we were open.
Okay. And I want to commend you and your company. I think that's great, and thank you.
No, I agree fully.
Okay, thank you.
You have to check out the companies to make sure they are what they say they are.
Okay, well, thank you, and I just want to make that clear, because I think it lets the taxpayers know that we were not ever saying no, and we're just doing our due diligence to make sure. And I would like to I think you seconded.
Okay. I'd just like to add, I guess, in closure to this, is that I briefly talked to Mr. McPherson even before the meeting had taken place on this, and As I had said, it was that we weren't against you or I was against you. It's just that we just wanted to make sure that we do our due diligence, and I think we've done it, and now we're going to give you the opportunity to negotiate with our port director. Thank you, sir. Well, with that being said, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor for item number 7?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Before we leave this one comment is that we do have 4 very reputable shipbreakers at this port. They are making millions of dollars in investments. Not only have they, but they're continuing to diversifying their operations. I think that what you read about the industry, and certainly what you read about the government oversight from those articles that were floating around here in the late 90s is entirely different now. I think we need to be an advocate for these companies that are in our port, because they are strategically placing us on a map for a particular type of industry. But I can tell you that the picture that was painted 10 years ago is entirely what is going on now. And what we saw, and we visited every breaker, not only the ones we currently have here, and what was going on in Chesapeake, and I think all of them will tell you that there's no magic to the way they do things. They all work the same way. They all follow the same rules. They have to live with the same regulatory oversight that is very, very intense. It's not like it was 10 years ago. So I think in fairness, not only to Bay Bridge, but our existing operators here, they are all reputable. They are employing people in our community, and they're investing millions of dollars, and they pay a lot of wages to a lot of people. Now, I guess the determination of they're good and decent, I'm not going to make that judgment call, because quite candidly, I don't know. Just like I don't know, Bay Bridge, what they're saying, what they're going to do, that's going to be, something that will be up to them. But all I'm saying is that don't paint the existing breakers as any different or as somehow being bad compared to what we're getting. I think that the standard that you will see has been set here in Brownsville, Texas, and they're all doing what is necessary to be productive within their industry and work within the rules.
Absolutely. Okay, we're on to the next item, number 8. Consideration and action on assignments, negotiations, easements, subleases, and contracts in general. Ms. Rosenbaum?
Transformer requesting to terminate their lease and that we grant Marine Metals Inc. a new lease. The Marine Metals has been there from the start. They have been the operators, and now they're just wanting to have the lease in their name. So I'm asking the board to give me authority to negotiate.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Rosenbaum. Next item, number 9, bids, proposals, and contracts. Consideration and action on a professional services contract with Weth and Associates for consulting services associated with group health insurance and employee benefit plans. Mr. Campirano?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, we at the prior meeting you approved us going out for proposals for employee group health insurance, and Wethy and Associates is an independent consultant to assist entities such as ourselves in making sure that in going out and trying to provide the most affordable and the best benefits for its employees, that that they do provide what I think would be a valuable service to the sort. I'm familiar with them. They currently provide consulting services to the Brownsville PUB. They provide it to the Brownsville Independent School District. They provide it to Cameron County. I believe that the annual contract, even though it's for an amount certainly within my authority, I thought it was important to bring it to you only because...
How much is it for?
It's for $4,800 retainer for the year, but I believe that they will save us their fee, if not in terms of trying to help us hold down our costs or expansion of benefits to the employees at no increased cost.
How exactly do they do that?
They know what to look for. They know where. I mean, we know what we want, but we may not know exactly how to clearly dissect the proposal or benefits. So, what I want is making sure that somebody is protecting our interests and not someone who is representing an independent agent or insurance company that's basically selling us what they think we need.
So they would be the ones to evaluate the proposals irrespective of who the agents are?
Yeah, they will assist us in not only evaluating what we get back, but knowing how to put out a proposal that asks the right questions and help us evaluate, help us with a recommendation, and really look at our benefit package and saying, are you getting what you should be getting?
Would you agree that if they don't save us in premiums in that 12-month period, that we can then look at their contract again?
Well, the way this thing is structured, it's subject to being approved on a yearly basis anyway. It's not an automatic.
When should we realize those benefits, the cost savings?
Well, we will see that when we go out for...
Which is when?
Well, I think it's on a calendar year.
January.
Yeah.
So we should pay less next year than we did?
Not necessarily. I mean, it depends. Remember, our loss experiences are going to determine what you're going to get.
True.
Now, what they can help us is if somebody submits a proposal and says, hey, we're increasing your premiums by 50%, we shouldn't just take that. Now, if we can get it down to 25% or 15%, that's a savings to it. So it isn't just paying less. It's making sure that we don't pay a lot more than we need to pay or should pay or can afford to pay.
How is the $4,800 arrived at?
We negotiated with him.
Is that 1% of the total value? I mean, is that how can we see if it's standard? If that's a standard rate, less than 1%? Look, I want to give Mr. Campirano and all port directors every tool that they need to succeed. And if this is a consultant that you have worked with and have a comfort level with and have found that they've saved the PUV money, well, then I'm certainly willing to give it a try, so I'll make that motion.
And I will tell you that I did assemble the team here, and we actually met with him, so staff had an opportunity to meet with him and have their input on whether or not they thought this was going to be something that would benefit us or not, and the response, and I mean, I would imagine they would tell you the truth, is that, this is a service that we believe will benefit the port.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, consideration and action on authorizing signature authority to designate grantee official to accept grant awards from the Department of Homeland Security in the amount of $3,610,950 on behalf of the BND.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we applied for 3 separate grants and received grant award in the amount of $3.6 million, actually, plus, to undertake security improvements associated with all of the new requirements for ports. There are 3 separate grants. One grant would be for the command, control, and communications in the intelligence infrastructure. And in this particular grant, it's not only for the port with other participants that are participating in this. We also have a grant that we applied for that talked about the regional assessment, training, and also some community awareness programs that go with implementing a plan. And then the big one, the one that's going to affect us significantly, is the TWIC, the Access Card Compliance Program. So all 3 of these grants were awarded as a package. We have received the award documents. We need to accept it. And simply bringing it to the board to say that we agree to accept the grant, and more importantly, we agree to comply with the requirements of the grant. So we need to do this. This is time sensitive. We have, I believe, 45 days from day of award. So we do need to accept this. And this is not the first grant we've received, but certainly this is the culmination of the last grant award effort. So I would ask that you approve this so we can execute the award documents and move forward with implementation.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, consideration and action on a professional services agreement with Response Management Associates Incorporated, RMA, to provide program management for the recently awarded security grant.
I'm going to ask that this item not be considered as presented. I think there's still some delineation. The way this is presented, it shows a large amount of money that really isn't just project management services. There are other services. The majority of the services delineated in this grant are going to have to be procured through others. So what I would ask you to do is allow me to continue to negotiate with RMA and then delineate it and bring it back at the last meeting so it's clear as to what services are going to be provided and what services are included in the grant that we're going to have to procure through other outside services.
I'll move to table that item.
And I'll also, and I certainly would vote for the motion to table, but Mr. Campirano, wouldn't Homeland Security require us to at least go out for RFQ on this, given the amount of the contract?
I think some of the amounts on the contract are it's not necessarily represented the way it is here. I think one is that Homeland Security and the involvement of Mr. Trump from the beginning was involved in these grants, and some of the things that were in here were actually negotiated through him. So they're aware of his participation, and they understand that that we anticipated that him continuing to participate. However, I think we really need to be real clear on what that level of participation is going to be. And this does. I do not believe that changing it poses a problem to our grant, or certainly that has not been represented to Homeland Security, or in this case the TSA, because he's been at the table with meetings with them, with us, all of us at the same time. The TWIG card program is particularly concerned. We actually have a meeting with the TSA folks who are coming down to see the port for the first time on the 20th. So we'll continue to have his involvement in that process. But I think it's important to clearly delineate what those specific items of responsibility are, and I don't think this does it to the extent that we need to.
But what I'm saying, though, is shouldn't we ask whether there's other companies out there and not just decide that it should be RMA?
We can certainly do that, but it's certainly within our right to, since this would be a professional service contract,
right,
given their involvement, and I think we believe that they will provide the service that we ask to, that we can choose to do it with them. And it will not pose a problem to the grant award entity.
I would have a concern about not going out for some type of proposal, but I'll certainly vote to table.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, the table item number 11. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12, consideration and action to award bids for automotive equipment received August 14th of 2007. Ms. Debbie Duke.
We sent out notices to 9 of our local automotive vendors. We received one bid from Pittsburgh Ford. We're pleased with the bid amounts. The pickup trucks, they did $13,895 a piece. They're the half-ton F-150 with the V6 engine. And we were asking for some small sport utility vehicles with the V6 engine. They did the Escape at $17,795. And we were asking for you to award 2 pickups and 3 sport utility vehicles to District 4.
Okay. So moved.
I would note they're giving us a 60 to 90-day delivery, which is a little longer than we've asked, but it's 2008.
Production on the assembly ceases, and so you've got to wait for the next round. So.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion for item number 12. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, consideration and action to authorize the staff to advertise for bids for repair work to be performed on tracks S14 and S15.
At the time that we went into the agreement for the previous track work with the railroad, it was the understanding that when that was complete, that we would do sharing on this next set of work that needs to be done. The track that is on backside of Dock 10 and 11. And Norma has the materials and the labor ready. We were to do the sub-base work. We thought we might do it with our employees, but Joe feels that his workload's a little strapped. He would like to go out and get bids, see if we can get bids from a local contractor. It would get the work done a little bit more quickly. I believe that Mr. Gonzalez Engineering has performed the bid packets. They're ready to go. So we're asking for more permission to go ahead and advertise for someone to come in and do the sub-base work for us.
I understand the tracks on S14, S15 are in dire need of repair. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
with this rain, it's not helping any bit at all. They're
Yeah.
sinking even more, so.
And
the
time
sooner we
is,
do it, yeah.
time is important on this
Make the
particular
motion,
project.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor for item number 13?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Duke. This time we adjourn into executive session. It's 7 p.m. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Someone else?